Marriage in America has gone from a sacred institution to a political football. How did this happen? Well, let's review a case out of the Northern District of Ohio for some clues. Next on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from a long through line of everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study. Once again, we are here to read and study the Constitution, to teach the rising generation to be free, to recognize when our rights are violated, and be prepared to defend and assert them. Again, I'm glad you could join me. Please head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. That's where you can find everything I'm working on. It's where you can engage me. It's where you can see all my articles. It's where you can research what I've written in the past or what I've done videos on in the past. It's all there. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can check out the store. Everything is right there. Please let me know. I'm putting together some new webinars. So if you have a topic you would like me to do a webinar on, please let me know. Go to the website, just contact Paul, put in a request or put in a speaking request. Let me know. I'm more than happy to consider it as I'm putting these together. So with that, let's talk about this case out of the Northern District of Ohio. I came across a complaint filed by the Alliance Defending Freedom, or ADF, on behalf of Christy Stokes against Cuyahoga County, Ohio. Now, from the complaint we read, quote, "Like other ministers, Christy chooses which weddings to officiate and write about based on her faith. While Christy works with and tries to convey God's love to everyone, no matter who they are, she can only celebrate weddings consistent with her beliefs. In this way, Christy exercises the commonplace and long-standing freedom to speak messages and participate in sacred ceremonies of her choosing." Seems reasonable to me. You have the right to engage in commerce. That includes what services you will offer. You also have the right to freely exercise your beliefs, even if not everyone agrees with you. But the complaint goes on. But this freedom has become a bit too old-fashioned for Cuyahoga County. The county recently passed a law that forbids businesses from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Cuyahoga County Code Title 15. When applied to Christy, though, this law requires her to officiate and promote weddings she disagrees with, weddings celebrating same-sex marriage and gender identities contrary to one's biological sex. Specifically, because Christy offers wedding services that celebrate marriage between one biological man and one biological woman, the county says she must also provide the same services for weddings that contradict her beliefs, or Christy commits illegal discrimination. This in turn means that Christy must officiate same-sex weddings, pray over same-sex marriages, write vows calling biological men women, writing homilies using incorrect or gender-neutral pronouns like per, she, and z, or face heavy fines, attorney's fees, and injunctions. Now, this is quite typical of sexual orientation and gender identity, or what are called SOGI laws. The government uses force to make people comply with some agenda. Now, rather than allowing people to live at liberty, with the freedom to act or not act according to their conscience, these laws use force to obtain conformity. Rather than freedom of, they establish a requirement to. Now, continuing from the complaint. But the problems don't stop there. The county law also makes it illegal for Christy to explain on her company's website or social media sites that she can only provide wedding services consistent with her religious views on marriage and gender. The county considers these communications to be unlawful discrimination too, because they supposedly indicate that clients will be treated differently because of sexual orientation or gender identity. Not only does this law require people act in a certain way, but that their speech complies with the forced conformity as well. Now, before you start screaming First Amendment violation, remember that amendment starts with the words "Congress shall make no law." Congress did not make this law. Neither did Cuyahoga County create this law under an authority of Congress. So this is not a First Amendment issue, although the courts have applied the First Amendment to the states for years. This law, however, is a violation of the Constitution of the state of Ohio, specifically Article 1, Sections 7 and 11. Section 7 reads, "All men have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. No person shall be compelled to attend, erect, or support any place of worship or maintain any form of worship against his consent, and no preference shall be given by law to any religious society, nor shall any interference with the rights of conscience be permitted." Now, Section 11 reads, every citizen may freely speak, write, and publish his sentiments on all subjects, being responsible for the abuse of the right, and no law shall be passed to restrain or abridge the liberties of speech or of the press. So how did we get here? How did we become a country where governments can be used to force people to do what we want? Where freedom has been replaced with compliance, where the blessings of liberty are as faint as your breath on a winter morning? The answer is, we did it to ourselves. While there are plenty of examples of government being used to enforce conformity with one group's beliefs or another, today we're talking about marriage, so I will focus on that. Now, for centuries, marriages were contracts between two families. These agreements were made for a variety of reasons, from social and financial to even political. When the Church of England wanted to have a say in approving these marriages, laws were established requiring marriage licenses. Now, in America, prior to the 1700s, marriages were primarily the responsibility of the local church. Your minister would certify that you had been married, and that marriage was registered with the state. These were known as common law marriages and were recognized by governments. Then in 1741, North Carolina wanted to increase control over marriage, primarily to prohibit interracial marriages. And it did so by issuing marriage licenses. By the 1920s, this practice had grown to 38 states. And it wasn't until 1967 that Virginia's Racial Integrity Act of 1924 was found to be unconstitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. By 1929, all states have some law about marriage licenses. And by the late 1900s, states began to nullify common law marriages and exert even more control over who was allowed to marry. Now, the primary reason given for government issuance of marriage licenses was for keeping vital statistics. However, as we've already seen, a large reason was for government control over who could and could not marry. I've said it before, the power to regulate is the power to infringe. Marriage licensing has morphed from its racist past to today's political football. What was once seen as a simple state recognition of what people had done has become the power to determine if they will even be allowed to marry. And in the 21st century, the so-called right to marry has grown from the simple request to be allowed to have a relationship recognized by the state, to the demand not only that everyone recognizes your union, but that the government force people to participate in it. Now, since the church no longer has the authority to sanction marriages, it is up to the state to do so. Should the state recognize these marriages? And if so, how should they have gone about it? Well, these are questions for another day. However, it is quite clear that the supreme and fundamental laws of this country do not allow governments to force people to engage in certain activities, restrict their ability to express themselves, and certainly not extort them into compliance. As ADF notes in their complaint, quote, "The county, however, cannot rescind religious liberty and free speech by relabeling them discrimination." In reality, Christie gladly works with people regardless of who they are, including LGBT individuals. She just cannot officiate or bless every marital union. Other ministers and speakers often make this choice. Imams should not be forced to officiate Christian weddings they object to or to write vows they disagree with. Nor should LGBT artists be forced to sing at church services or draft church pamphlets condemning same-sex marriage. Likewise, Christie should be free to officiate and celebrate the ceremonies she believes in. The First Amendment and Ohio's Constitution guarantee her as much, and the county is wrong to approve such choices for others while ripping them away from Christie. SOGI laws are an obvious and gross violation of the rights of the American people. Should we treat those we disagree with poorly simply because we disagree with them? No. But just as people claim the right to marry who they want, they must extend the same courtesy through those who do not wish to participate. While the people have a right through their representatives to endorse or recognize these marriages, they do not have the authority to trample the rights of others simply because they disagree. The Pilgrims came to this land to freely exercise their religion. Today they would be put in the proverbial stocks because their beliefs don't match up with current dogma. Christie is in this situation because we, the people, have used government to force our will on others. And now, for some reason, we're surprised when government is used to force someone else's will on us. Quoting from the complaint, in fact, Christie has already risked prosecution by declining to officiate a same-sex wedding, and she continues to chill her speech and cripple her business just to avoid violating the law. Meanwhile, Christie has watched as officials across the country have punished business owners like her, threatening them with fines and jail for declining to promote same-sex weddings. So the county's law has left Christy with an impossible choice: disobey the law, defy her faith, desecrate her ministry, or ditch her business. None of these options are acceptable to Christy, to her faith, or to the First Amendment. Left with no other options, Christy filed this lawsuit to protect her constitutional freedom and help protect the freedoms vital to everyone in a tolerant and pluralistic society. The freedoms to participate in ceremonies we choose, to proclaim messages we admire, and to practice the beliefs we hold dear. See, if we will not stand up to defend the rights of Christy Stokes, then we should not expect anyone else to stand up for ours. If we will allow government to bully and intimidate people into foregoing their freedom of speech, their freedom of religion, even their right to own a business, then this experiment in self-government has failed. If we let this happen, if Christy Stokes is allowed to be punished for exercising her rights, then this is no longer the land of the free. If we are unwilling to stand up to tyrants, then America is no longer the home of the brave. If our rights are no longer unalienable, if they are subject to the whims of those in government, then we are no longer a constitutional republic. We are a kleptocratic oligarchy of our own making. You know, I have certain beliefs about marriage, what is and is not marriage, and what marriages should and should not be recognized. But I also live in a constitutional republic, which means I don't get to force my beliefs on others. Yet here we are forcing certain beliefs on other people and patting ourselves on the back for it. This is disgusting. What's happening to Christy Stokes shows just how corrupt our understanding of liberty and freedom are, just how pale they are, just how self-centered they are. Americans have little clue what true liberty is. Liberty is, I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Today, liberty is, I don't like what you say, so I'm going to shut you up, or I'm going to fine you or put you in jail. This is tyranny. This is the definition of tyranny. It is an arbitrary law violating the rights of other human beings. Now, agree with Christy or not, she has a right to believe what she wants. She has a right to run a business the way she wants. She has a right to take the jobs and perform the services that she wants. You do not have the right to tell her how to run her life. But that's exactly what's happening in Cuyahoga County, and it's happening all over the country because we see these SOGI laws and similar things being promoted over and over and over again. And the really sick and twisted part is they're being done in the name of freedom and liberty. In the name of freedom and liberty, they're taking away the freedoms and liberties of others. It's disgusting. It should anger you. It should really get you to stand up. Now, if you live in the Northern District of Ohio, if there's any way you can help Christy, if you can work with her on some project, I would certainly recommend it. We need to come alongside people who are defending their rights and liberties and help them. If you can do that by helping Christy Stokes in her business, thank you. If you don't live near there, if you don't have a direct way to help, then we need to find local places that are implementing these SOGI laws, and we need to fight them. We need to fight them when we're called names, when we're called mean, when we're called homophobic, when we're called transphobic, no matter. We need to fight them. We need to fight for our rights and explain that we're fighting for your rights as well. Because if you can tell me what to do, one day I will be able to tell you what to do. And you probably won't like that. This is not just simple, oh, this is Ohio, it doesn't matter. This is an example of the corruption of freedom and liberty in America. This is why I say the experiment in self-government is dying. It's on life support. The line is almost flat. If freedom and liberty in America was a person, they'd be in hospice because it's dying. Because we, the people, are letting this happen. And it's about time we get off our backsides and start doing something about it. That includes hiring better representatives. That includes forcing them to do their job, hold these judges responsible. That includes getting in the face of the county of Cuyahoga and wherever else you find it and saying, no, you cannot, in the name of discrimination, discriminate against someone else. That's Orwellian. That's twisted. That's disgusting. So hopefully this has angered you. angered you enough to either go help Christie or go take a look at what's going on in your state and your county and stand up against this tyranny, against this discrimination, against this destruction of liberty and freedom in America. And hopefully you'll come back here the next time. We'll find out more on the Constitution Study.
There's one thing you have to know wherever you make your stand. Came from